It's Friday, November 11th. Let's talk PlayStation. So, yes, PlayStation 4 Pro came out yesterday. Mine's right here. Still have not set up my TV from the, you've probably seen it from the videos I uploaded yesterday about PS4 Pro. But I'd like to take the first, minute or two of LTPS, of this LTPS, to discuss not PS4 Pro or PS4, but PlayStation 3. Today's November 11th. 2016, and 10 years ago, November 11, 2006, the PlayStation 3 officially launched in Japan. And then only a week later, November 17th, it launched in North America. But this marks 10 years, PlayStation 3. Long time. I just got a text message. But, you know, I remember a long time ago when PlayStation 3 was, slowly becoming a thing. And I believe it was either Jack Tretton or it was Kaz Hirai that said, I think it was Kaz Hirai at the time, who was at the time the president and CEO of just Sony PlayStation, not Sony Corporation as a whole. But I believe it was Kaz or Jack who said PS3 was going to have a 10-year long life cycle, and everyone kind of laughed at that, thinking, that's absolutely absurd. 10 years for a console, that's ridiculous. And there was always the argument of oh, it's not going to be 10 years before PS4, just that 10 years of PS3, living on the market, being manufactured, having games coming out for it. And today marks that day. 10 years on the market, still alive. Granted, yes, we do have PlayStation 4 now, and PlayStation 4 is doing quite well, but just thought I'd commemorate PlayStation 3 a little bit, because I actually really loved PlayStation 3, and it did have a very rough start, but it did reach its infamous 10-year-long life cycle, and it's still going, actually, which is surprising. Now, speaking in relation to PS3's 10th birthday, Sony's also running a promotion for the fact that PlayStation Store has been up for 10 years. Big surprise. So not only are they doing a big sales event for the fact that they've been up for 10 years, but people that have been on PSN for longer than 9.5 years are getting a special PlayStation Network avatar. They're going to be emailing it to you shortly. They're saying it's going to be just in your download list apparently. But if you've been on PSN for longer than 9.5 years, you're going to be getting this avatar, which is pretty sweet. I always like sort of customer appreciation things whenever companies like to do this for the people that have been with them for a long time. So that's always a nice little nod. They actually also posted a screenshot of what the PlayStation Store originally looked like when it launched in 2006, and if you weren't there for it, it was heinous, ugly, and it was actually a web browser. That's what some people don't remember, is that back in 2006 with the PlayStation 3, the original PlayStation Store was a web browser with a cursor. It was that bad, it was slow, it was painful. Those were some tried and true times, and if you were there for the pain and misery, Sony's there to say, yes, we understand, and here's an avatar. So for the hell of it, let's talk about some Xbox stuff, because who doesn't want to talk about Xbox on a PlayStation show? No, but really, I actually did think we should mention this, because I think it's one of those situations where you can't always talk about how good PS4 is doing, and then the second it gets beat, and then just not talk about it. And that's the thing. In the past 4 months, Xbox One has actually been outselling PlayStation 4 in North America. So this is something we haven't talked about since the first month it did it. But Microsoft's going on 4 months now that they have outsold PlayStation 4 in North America, and 2 months in a row for, I believe, the UK and Australia. So Microsoft finally picking up a little bit of steam, which is actually good for them. I'm actually proud to see that. I like that. We don't want them to just, do so bad that they have to fall out of the industry. Same goes for Nintendo, of course, and that's an entirely different discussion based on how well they've been doing the past few years. But yeah, so Microsoft's been doing quite well. Of course, it's attributed to the fact that they had Gears launch. Battlefield 1's doing very, very good for them. Xbox One S has been having a lot of good press going on for them recently. It's got even more buzz than PlayStation 4 Slim, so maybe that kind of tells you right there why that's probably doing really well. And they've just got great bundles too. Great sales going on. They got special editions of the Xbox One S going around. It just makes a whole lot of sense. And for the longest time, I was even predicting, I had predicted on past videos or something for I believe it was 2014 or 2015 predictions video or something. I was like, eventually Microsoft's going to retake in North America or something. And even back when Xbox One was originally announced, I'm like, this console's going to kill it in sales. They're totally still going to own North America. And for the longest time, they were just nothing. Sony was just dominating. But we're finally seeing them pick up a little bit of steam, so that's actually pretty good. And in relation to some Xbox news, of course, a PS4 spin to it. One website is reporting... wait, let me get the source for you. All right, this is according to Windows Central. They're saying that Microsoft reportedly announced Xbox Scorpio a lot earlier than they intended to because of PS4 Pro leaks. I was about to say PS4 Neo. I'm still used to saying that. But yeah, at the time, PS4 Neo. Because of PS4 Neo leaks, Microsoft was pressured into sort of announcing and revealing Scorpio a little bit early. And usually when you hear about stuff like this, it's kind of like bullshit, because especially when it relates to the fact of like E3 press conferences, like people always like to talk about how, oh, they changed this or they changed that because so-and-so did this and that. And like, at least on the Sony side, Sony's always been forward in saying, yeah, we're like a multi-billion-dollar company. We don't make multi-million-dollar decisions based on mere hours. Like, these shows are planned months ahead of time and stuff. Like, we don't change things. Like, that kind of, that kind of shit doesn't happen. But I guess that's just speaking for just Sony, so I'm not entirely sure. I would assume Microsoft's kind of the same way, but who knows? Maybe they do, play the field a little bit differently. I guess at the very least, Microsoft Scorpio reveal was a little bit informal. They didn't really have anything to show you. They just had a not even 5 minute. It was like a 2-3 minute video reel of people saying why Scorpio is great and why it's like awesome. Obviously, they were working on Scorpio, but it's the fact that they are reportedly they had shown it earlier than expected. Presumably to take away steam from the fact that, Neo was a real thing, or that Sony sort of had the same idea as Microsoft, which is to release a console that's going to be fully compatible, but it just releases a little bit sooner and it's not a full generational leap. I guess there's it could go either way. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But certainly I think that if it were true, it's believable in a sense, because Microsoft knows that they've always been playing kind of the underdog against Sony, and they would have the confidence of showing it early because they know they would have a more powerful box, and they will have a more powerful box with Scorpio. We already know that on paper, Scorpio is going to be handedly more powerful than PS4 Pro. So I guess they just kind of wanted to get that out in the air and tell people, hey, Scorpio is going to be like the most powerful console ever, even though they would know that without announcing it, they wanted to announce it, and just to kind of temper people's expectations when Neo eventually came out, which that's another thing Microsoft was expecting, is that the Neo would come out before Scorpio. Interestingly enough, the report also mentions how Microsoft's dev kit moving forward for Scorpio is going to be universal Windows platform, which means the dev kit's going to make it very easy and seamless for developers to not only make their games available for all models of the Xbox, but also Windows, and it'll make it easy for developers to sort of test each version of the game and things like that. Very much so what we already knew what Microsoft was doing, which was kind of unifying all their platforms and blurring the lines between traditional consoles and PC, and kind of building a bridge between those two ecosystems and getting more people into that platform versus Sony. And that's why I've always kind of mentioned, like, I feel like Microsoft's not necessarily super, like, concerned with what Sony's doing nowadays. And, of course, these past how many minutes we've been talking now kind of is against that line of thinking, but it's still kind of, like, the same idea. Because, granted, obviously Microsoft still likes, having better numbers than Sony, because Sony's having good numbers. So clearly they're still going to be somewhat, concerned about, PS4. But, what I've always been saying is, like, it's not like what it used to be. Like, back in, like, going into, like, 2013 and, like, 360 versus PS3, like, it is just not what it used to be in terms of, like, console wars and fights and all that. At the very least, it's more civil nowadays. Obviously, Microsoft and Sony still care about what they're doing, what each other are doing, but yeah, I mean, Sony's going in one direction and Microsoft's kind of going in another still. And for our final news story, nothing too crazy. Now that PlayStation 4 Pro is out in the wild, people are playing with it, and obviously we're hearing some things about how it's going for like certain people's experiences. So for example, Skyrim Remastered, some people are actually saying that on PS4 Pro the frame rate actually dips a little bit, which is like the one thing Sony always mentioned and told developers, that PS4 Pro frame rate cannot go below it. Like the PS4 Pro frame rate has to match the base game's frame rate, or at the very least go higher, but it can't go under. And so people are reporting that on Skyrim, or I believe it was Digital Foundry actually that reported this. So they're saying that on Skyrim Remastered, PS4 Pro actually goes lower than 30 frames, but that's of course because the game's running at native 4K, and draw distance and things like that has increased. So there's sort of the problem there. Who knows if that'll get sorted out. Another thing is using PlayStation VR. If you don't have PlayStation VR, I'll tell you right now, that's the one thing, is load times are severely bad on virtual reality games. I guess makes sense, but you know, because they are demanding. But people are saying that on PS4 Pro, even if the games don't have a pro, you know, a pro supported patch or anything like that, the games actually do load a little bit, like, noticeably quicker. Some people are reporting that games do look a little bit better, like, and they perform a little bit better. And people are saying this in regards to, like, non-patched games. I can't really say anything about that. I haven't really had too much playtime to test it with yet. If anything, I would say that's probably the placebo effect or something, because clearly you're going to be looking for improvements when you're playing PS4 Pro and PSVR. But that is what some people are saying. The load times definitely make sense. That, you know, that's something that could certainly be just straight up sort of retroactively improved upon in terms of performance. But in terms of patched games, yeah, I mean, obviously the benefits are there. People are saying, yeah, it looks great and stuff like that. There's nothing too insane going on right now. But yeah, I mean, PS4 Pro's out in the wild, and that's, you know, that's what it was kind of supposed to be in terms of it coming out. It's supposed to be sort of a soft launch, a soft launch for the system. You know, people are kind of making it out to be this big grand thing, but like, it really is just a slightly stronger PS4. And you know, there's obviously benefits to owning it on a 1080p display, but the real benefits are going to be a, you know, 4K display. A lot of people don't have that, so it's just like, it's not generating like a whole lot of buzz. Makes sense, but you know, on this channel, of course, we'll be doing some more PS4 Pro videos just to have that coverage, obviously, and talk about it and see what's going on with it. And with that said, actually, those are all the news stories I want to talk about with you guys this week. So this segues nicely into the fact that, yeah, PS4 Pro videos. So there's the unboxing up and how to change the hard drive. Pretty straightforward stuff. We were expecting that. Very soon I'll have a size comparison video for you, and then a noise test comparison video. We always do those. An actual final review. Of course, I want playtime on the system before I actually give a verdict on it. And like I mentioned, I did buy a new TV for it, and a couple of people actually asked for a review of the TV, which is you know, interesting thing. I mean, like, would people want to see that? I guess it wouldn't be like a review of the TV, I guess, but it would be more so, I'd say, is this a good TV for PS4 Pro in terms of affordability and picture quality and all that. Anyway, if you want to see that, I don't know, I didn't plan on it, but I can maybe find some time in between work and whatnot to squeeze it in there. If there's anything else anyone wants to see, please let me know. Other than that, just stay tuned. So that concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Badecki. Thank you all so much for talking with me, and I will see you guys next Friday.